The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of the penthouse, 1,000 glittering shards scattering as her hopes had 6 years ago. The sound was a starting pistol. From her concealed perch in the service stairwell, Anya watched the party below spiral into chaos. The CEO's wife was screaming, a high, thin sound of pure social terror. The mayor was staring at his phone, face ashen. Investors were clustering in panicked knots, their whispers rising to a nervous roar. And in the center of it all, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the glittering skyline of Manhattan, was the man who had built this empire on her broken bones, Marcus Thorne. His smile, that famous, reassuring Lion of Wall Street smile, was frozen, then crumbling. Anya allowed herself a single silent breath. The first domino had fallen. Her tears had been real. Her pain was a canyon inside her. And now her revenge was a clockwork beast, ticking its way through the heart of his world. 6 years earlier, Anya Sharma had arrived in New York not with dreams of conquering it, but with the hope of being allowed to exist in it. She was 22, a scholarship student from a sun-bleached Arizona town, her mind a sharp, hungry thing filled with algorithms and economic theory. She landed an internship at Thorne Capital, a mythical place of glass and ambition. Marcus Thorne took notice in her 3rd week. He wasn't the predatory cliché. He was worse. He was a curator of talent, a charismatic figure around whom promising young stars orbited, desperate for his guidance. He saw her raw, untempered brilliance. "You have a mind for the fracture points," he told her, his voice a warm, cognac-soaked confidence. "The places where systems break. Most people build. I want you to help me find the cracks." She was mesmerized. The mentorship was intense, flattering. He invited her to high-level meetings, praised her insights in front of titans, and called her his secret weapon. The personal boundary blur was gradual. A late dinner to discuss a trade, a ride home in his town car, a touch on the shoulder that lingered. She was young, dazzled, and deeply alone in the city. When he kissed her in his office as midnight bled into the windows, it felt like a reward, a dark, secret graduation. The affair that followed wasn't a whirlwind. It was a quiet, deep current pull into his world. He spoke of a future, a partnership, of how he needed someone who understood the architecture of chaos as she did. He called her his equal in the dark. She believed him. She gave him not just her body but her mind, her proprietary trading algorithm, a thing of delicate predictive beauty she'd named the compass. It could navigate market volatility with eerie prescience. He called it their project. He patented it in Thorne Capital's name. In her name he promised soon. The end came not with a shout, but with a legal memo. She found it on her desk the morning after she told him she was pregnant. It was a cease and desist letter from Thorne Capital's lawyers, alleging she had attempted to claim intellectual property owned by the firm, the Compass. Stunned, she went to his office. The man who had whispered secrets into her skin was gone. In his place was Marcus Thorne, CEO. "Anya," he said, not unkindly, a surgeon making an incision, "this is a professional firm. Your attachment has clouded your judgment. The algorithm was developed on company time with company resources. Any claim otherwise is frivolous. It would be best for you to move on." She stood there, the world tilting. "And the baby," she whispered. He didn't flinch. "I'd advise against any unfounded paternity claims. My legal team is exceptional. You're a bright girl. Don't throw your future away on a fantasy." The dismissal was absolute. Security escorted her out, past rows of silent, averted eyes. Her keycard was dead in her hand. Her emails are bouncing back. She was a ghost, erased from the narrative of his rise. The pain that followed was geological. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was a demolition. She lost the baby in a lonely, crushing wave of grief and stress a month later. A loss that felt like a physical amputation of a future she barely dared to picture. The legal fight was a farce. His exceptional team buried her in paperwork and motions. She was alone, broke, branded a disgruntled, unstable ex-employee trying to extort a successful man. The final blow was a public out-of-court settlement, a pittance with a crushing NDA. She signed it in a lawyer's office that smelled of dust and defeat, her tears smudging the ink. They were real tears, a fury, of loss, of a betrayal so complete it hollowed her out. She left New York that night on a Greyhound bus, watching the skyline recede like a malignant constellation. For 5 years she disappeared. Anya Sharma vanished, and someone else was forged in the fire of her rage. She used the settlement money not to heal, but to arm herself. She moved to Silicon Valley, became a freelance cybersecurity consultant and quantitative analyst under a new name, Alara Vance. She took on jobs for crypto startups, shadowy security firms, and anyone who needed a mind that understood fracture points. She studied Marcus from afar, not with longing, but with the cold focus of a strategist mapping a fortress. She learned everything. His business deals, his marriage to socialite Celeste, his political connections, his hidden vices, a taste for high-stakes, off-book poker games, a quiet dependence on prescription stimulants, his philanthropic facade. She saw the cracks in him, the overextension, the arrogance, the belief that his narrative was unassailable. Her plan wasn't a bomb, it was a virus. A slow, elegant, systemic corruption of his reality. It required 3 pillars: ruin his reputation, cripple his wealth, and isolate him from his power base. And it had to be done in a way that he would know deep in his soul that it was her, that the ghost he'd created had returned in vengeance. Phase 1: reputation. She began by crafting a digital phantom, a disgruntled, anonymous whistleblower inside Thorn Capital called Minus. Minus began leaking curated, embarrassing but not yet illegal internal documents to a financial blog. Memos showing callous disregard for small investors, recordings of sexist comments from senior traders, doctored but believable, evidence of Marcus using philanthropic funds for PR cover. The leaks were drip-drip, eroding the polished marble of his public image. The media, bored and hungry, took the bait. Is Thorn Capital's culture toxic? Beneath the philanthropy, questions at the Thorn Foundation. Marcus dismissed it as noise, the price of being a king. But the castle walls were developing hairline fractures. Phase 2: wealth. This was her masterpiece. Using backdoors she coded into the compass's architecture, a fail-safe even Marcus's engineers had never found. She began subtly manipulating its performance. It would make near-perfect trades for weeks. Then, at key moments, it would execute a catastrophic high-volume error. The flaw in its logic looked like a freak market anomaly. She did this 3 times over 18 months. Each error erased tens of millions. The board grew nervous. Marcus doubled down, insisting on the compass's supremacy. He poured more capital in. He was chasing his own shadow, and she was holding the lantern. Phase 3: isolation. This was the most personal. She targeted his wife Celeste, not with scandal but with truth. Posing as a private art consultant, Alara befriended the lonely, aesthetically minded Celeste online. Their conversations grew deep. Alara spoke of betrayal, of being used by a powerful man, of rebuilding. She never named Marcus, but she guided Celeste to look at her husband's financial anxiety, his late nights, the whispers about the intern he'd fired years ago who tried to slander him. She planted the seed of doubt in fertile soil. Simultaneously, she anonymously sent the mayor's office evidence linking Marcus's generous campaign donations to favorable zoning laws for a Thorn property, a legal gray area that stank of quid pro quo. The mayor, facing re-election, began a quiet retreat. The night of the penthouse gala, the night of the shattered champagne flute, was the convergence. The party was his annual triumph, a display of invincibility. Anya, using credentials she'd hacked from a catering service, was there. She wore a simple black dress, her hair different, her bearing changed by years of hardened resolve. She looked like one of the many ambitious young professionals in the room. No one glanced twice. The trigger was the mayor's public withdrawal of support for the Thorn-backed Innovation Zone, announced via press release at 8 p.m. Anya, from her stairwell, sent a pre-written command from an encrypted device. Every phone in the penthouse, every tablet on a table, pinged simultaneously with a message from Minus. It wasn't a leak. It was a montage. A shaky, clandestine video of Marcus in his office, years younger, laughing with a young, vibrant Anya saying, "The compass is ours, darling. Your genius, my leverage. We'll be unstoppable." It was followed by the legal memo claiming ownership, then the NDA. Then, financial charts showing the algorithm's manipulated failures, with her digital signature, Anya Sharma, flashing on the code string she'd altered. Finally, a single stark line of text. The tears were real. The pain is yours now. The reaction was instant, volcanic. The financial backers saw the proof of a corrupted core strategy. The socialites saw the seedy affair. The politicians saw a liability. Celeste Thorne, standing beside her husband, didn't scream. She simply took off her wedding ring, placed it on a passing waiter's tray, and walked out, her face a mask of icy clarity. The video had shown her the girl he'd been with. Not a schemer, but a believer. She saw her own reflection in that girl's fate. Marcus stood alone by the window, the skyline at his back. He wasn't looking at the chaos. His eyes were scanning the crowd, desperate, frantic. He was looking for her. He knew. In that moment, he understood the architecture of his ruin. It wasn't a business rival. It wasn't bad luck. It was a reckoning, engineered with the very brilliance he'd stolen and discarded. It was perfect. Anya didn't wait for the encore. She slipped out the service entrance, down the elevator, and into the pulsing New York night. The cold air hit her face. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt a vast, silent emptiness. The canyon of her pain was still there, but the fire that had burned in it for 6 years was now just embers and ash. Weeks later, the fallout was total. Thorne Capital was under federal investigation for securities fraud and insider trading, sparked by her data. The board had ousted Marcus. Celeste had filed for divorce, her settlement taking a massive chunk of his crippled personal wealth. The social and political world had closed its doors. He was a pariah, his empire a smoking ruin. Anya, back in her modest apartment in California, watched the final news segment on her laptop. A paparazzi shot of Marcus, looking decades older, leaving a courthouse. She closed the lid. She walked to her balcony, overlooking a different, quieter city. The hook of her story had been the shattering glass, the public unmasking. But the ending was here in the silence. Her revenge was complete. It had been precise, thorough, and utterly devastating. It had given her back her power, but it hadn't given her back her child, her innocence, or those 6 years. The pain was deep, and it would always be a part of her geography. But it was no longer a chain. It was a lesson etched in stone. She took a deep breath. The air here smelled of eucalyptus and distant ocean, not of cold ambition and broken champagne. She was Anya again, scarred, unbreakable, free. Her story wasn't about him anymore. It was about what she would build next, on the foundation of her own scorched earth. Hey everyone! If you felt the chill of Anya's journey, the slow burn of a perfectly plotted revenge, then you understand the power of a story where the protagonist takes back their narrative. That's what we explore here on this channel. The tales of those who rise from the ashes, not with fury alone, but with cunning and resolve. If you want more stories of calculated comebacks, of hidden strength, and secrets waiting in the shadows, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that bell so you don't miss a single upload. The next story is already brewing. Until then, remember, some tears water vengeance. Some pain builds an empire. Stay sharp.